Good day, everyone. Sister Cerise here. I have some developments in the Sean Diddy Combs case. Now, I'm going to do some background. I'm going to do a little bit of everything in this video. So sit back, relax. We have breaking legal developments in the case of the Sean Diddy Combs. A court in Manhattan has set a new hearing for September 25th, during which the defense will press for either acquittal or a retrial on 2 prostitution-related convictions. This has reignited scrutiny of the case, and today I'm bringing you the information, detailed information on what's going on, why this date matters, and of course, what could happen and unfold next. We'll break down the timeline, examine the legal strategies at play, and analyze what this could mean for one of the music industry's most influential figures. This is a comprehensive look at where we stand just 2 weeks before this crucial hearing. Let's start with where we are today. After his conviction in July 2025, on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution under the Mann Act, Sean Diddy Combs' legal team has filed a motion asking Judge Arun Subramanian to either throw out these convictions or grant a new trial. The hearing on the motion is now scheduled for September 25th in Manhattan, and the timing here is absolutely crucial. This happens just ahead of Combs' sentencing, which is set for October 3rd. That means this hearing is sort of the last major legal chance before sentencing to challenge the jury's verdict, at least for those 2 charges. To understand the significance, we need to look back at what happened in July. On July 2nd, 2025, the verdicts were read in Combs' sex trafficking trial before the judge. While he was acquitted on several charges, the jury found him guilty on 2 specific counts under the Mann Act, federal legislation that criminalizes the transportation of individuals across state lines for prostitution. The defense's argument for this September 25th hearing are multiple-pronged and very sophisticated. They include that the Mann Act was applied too broadly in this instance, that there was inadequate evidence to support the convictions, and perhaps most compellingly, that some of the evidence introduced, especially evidence tied to charges he was ultimately acquitted of, may have unfairly prejudiced the jury. Legal experts call this spillover prejudice, and it's a recognized grounds for appeal when evidence from dismissed or acquitted charges contaminates the jury's consideration of the charges that result in conviction. The defense is also arguing that some evidence constituted inflammatory content that may have swayed the jury emotionally rather than legally. This is a delicate balance in high-profile cases. Prosecutors need to present their case, but inflammatory evidence, that's more prejudicial. On the other side, prosecutors are countering that the evidence was strong enough to support the convictions, that the jury instructions were proper, and that there is no legal bias for overturning the verdict or ordering a new trial. They're likely to argue that the evidence was properly admitted under federal rules of evidence and that the jury was capable of compartmentalizing the different charges. What makes this particularly interesting is the timing. The judge confirmed Combs's bail was denied immediately following the July verdict and has maintained a tight schedule. The fact that this hearing is scheduled for September 25th, just 8 days before the October 3rd sentencing, suggests the court recognizes the urgency of these post-conviction motions. Now let's dive deeper into what we can expect when court convenes on September 25th. This isn't going to be a retrial. This is what's called a post-conviction motion hearing, and it operates under very specific legal standards. The defense will try to persuade the judge that legal errors were made during the trial that materially affected the outcome. That's errors serious enough that a reversal or retrial is justified. This is a high bar to clear. They'll need to demonstrate not just that mistakes were made, but that those mistakes were significant enough to have potentially changed the jury's decision. Their arguments will likely focus on several key areas. First, the interpretation of the Mann Act itself. The defense appears to be arguing that the federal statute was applied too broadly in this case. The Mann Act, originally passed in 1910, has evolved significantly in its interpretation over the decades, and there's ongoing legal debate about its proper scope in modern prosecutions. Second, they'll challenge the sufficiency of evidence. In post-conviction proceedings, defense attorneys can argue that no responsible jury could have reached a guilty verdict based on the evidence presented. This is different from arguing innocence. They're arguing that the legal standard for conviction wasn't met. Third, and perhaps most importantly, they will address the spillover prejudice issue. When a defendant faces multiple charges and is acquitted on some but convicted on others, there's always a question about whether evidence related to the acquitted charges improperly influenced the jury's decision on the charges that resulted in conviction. The judge will need to consider several factors. He will review the trial record, examine whether jury instructions were adequate and properly delivered, and determine whether any evidence should not have been admitted under federal rules of evidence. He might also weigh legal precedent, case law on spillover effects from acquitted charges, constitutional limits on broad interpretations of federal transport laws, and established standards for post-conviction relief. Prosecutors will focus on defending the sufficiency of the evidence, arguing that the verdicts were properly reached under law, and attempting to rebut any claims of prejudice. They'll likely present a systematic defense of their evidence presentation, arguing that everything introduced was both legally permissible and necessary for the jury to understand the full context of the charges. One thing to watch for is whether any new legal arguments emerge. You see, while this hearing is primarily about reviewing what was already presented at trial, it's possible we could see novel legal theories or previously unexplored precedents brought into play. The judge has several options. He could deny the motion entirely, upholding the convictions. He could grant a new trial on the two Mann Act charges. In theory, though less likely, he could overturn the convictions entirely. there are also possibilities for partial relief. For example, ordering a new trial, but with specific limitations on what evidence can be presented. To understand why this September 25th hearing is generating so much attention, we need to look at both the immediate legal implications and the broader context of this case. First, let's address the timing question. Is this new news, or has it already been widely reported? The hearing date and the specific details of the motion are recently confirmed as of September 25th. So this is indeed current. It's breaking news. However, the trial verdicts and sentencing schedule have been widely reported since July. The underlying case and Combs's attempts to challenge the outcome have been part of ongoing legal coverage. So we're looking at a mix. The specific hearing details of some of the motion arguments are fresh news that I'm reporting today. But for those who have been following this case closely, this represents the next expected step and what has been a closely watched legal process. The significance extends far beyond just this individual case. Sean Diddy Combs is one of the most influential figures in the music industry, with a career spanning decades as a rapper, producer, and business mogul. His legal troubles have sent ripples through the entertainment industry and raised broader questions about accountability for powerful figures. From a legal perspective, this case is being watched by attorneys across the country because of how it handles the application of the Mann Act in modern contexts. The federal statute has been used in various high-profile cases in recent years, and court decisions about its proper scope have implications for future prosecutions. If the judge grants the motion, either overturning the convictions or ordering a new trial, it would significantly change the legal landscape for Combs. A successful motion could result in those two convictions being wiped from his record, or it could mean facing a new trial with potentially different evidence rules and jury instructions. Even if the judge denies the motion, the argument presented and the judge's reasoning will be crucial for the record. This will likely factor into any future appeals that Combs's legal team might pursue after sentencing. The proximity to the October 3rd sentencing date adds another layer of significance. In federal court, the severity of sentencing often depends on the number and nature of convictions. In the September 25th hearing, results in overturned convictions, it could dramatically affect the sentencing calculation. Even if the convictions stand, the judge's comments during the hearing could provide insight into how he views the case, which might influence sentencing decisions. This case exists within a broader context of accountability in the entertainment industry, and the September 25th hearing represents more than just one individual's legal challenges. The entertainment industry has been grappling with questions of power, abuse, and accountability for several years now. High-profile cases involving powerful figures have led to increased scrutiny of industry practices and cultures that may have enabled harmful behavior. Combs's case is being watched not just for its specific legal outcomes, but as a potential indicator of how the justice system handles cases involving influential entertainment figures. The federal nature of these charges also adds significance. The Mann Act charges specifically relate to interstate transportation, which brings federal jurisdiction into play. This means the case is being prosecuted with the full resources of the federal government, and any precedents set could influence how similar cases are handled nationwide. From a business perspective, Combs's legal troubles have already had ripple effects. His various business ventures, from music production to fashion and spirits, operate in industries where reputation and public perception matter enormously. The outcome of the September 25th hearing could influence not just his personal legal situation, but the future of his business empire. Legal experts are also watching this case for its implication regarding evidence presentation in complex, multi-charge cases. The spillover prejudice arguments being raised could influence how prosecutors structure their cases and how judges handle evidence in future trials involving multiple related charges. The media coverage itself has become part of the story. High-profile legal cases often involve complex interactions between legal proceedings and public perception. And the extensive coverage of Combs's case raises questions about how media attention might influence legal outcomes, public opinion, and industry responses. For other figures in the entertainment industry, this case serves as a reminder of potential legal vulnerabilities and the importance of compliance with federal laws, particularly those involving interstate activities. The music industry, with its frequent travel and multi-state operations, intersects with federal jurisdiction in numerous ways. As we look towards September 25th, several scenarios could unfold, each with different implications for Sean Diddy Combs and the broader legal landscape. If the judge denies the motion and upholds the convictions, we move directly toward October 3rd sentencing. In the scenario, Combs's legal team would likely begin preparing appeals to higher courts. But the immediate focus would shift to sentencing arguments and the judge's decision about punishment. If the judge grants a new trial on the two Mann Act charges, we'd see a significant shift in the case timeline. A new trial would likely be scheduled for sometime in 2026, given court scheduling realities. This would also raise questions about bail and whether Combs would remain in custody or be released pending the new trial. The least likely but most dramatic outcome would be an outright dismissal of the charges, especially an acquittal after conviction. This would require the judge to find that the evidence was legally insufficient to support the convictions, a high legal bar that courts are generally reluctant to cross. Regardless of the outcome on September 25th, this case will likely continue to generate legal and media attention. If the convictions are upheld, appeals to higher courts are almost certain. If there's a new trial ordered, that would bring renewed media attention and potentially new evidence or arguments. The timing also means we could see rapid developments, with sentencing scheduled for just 8 days after the current hearing, September 25th. The judge will need to make the decision quickly, and the legal teams will need to be prepared for various outcomes. So mark your calendars. September 25th is a critical date for Sean Diddy Combs and for those watching how the justice system handles high-profile cases involving powerful entertainment figures. Whether the judge grants a retrial or acquittal or upholds the verdict, the decision will echo in his sentencing and likely far beyond. I'll be covering the hearing and I'll be bringing you immediate analysis of whatever the judge decides. This has been your breaking news update on the Sean Diddy Combs case. I'll continue following the story closely, bringing you updates as the critical and crucial legal drama unfolds. The next 2 weeks promise to be pivotal in determining the future for one of music's most controversial figures. Stay tuned for continuing coverage, and I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe and hit that like button if you gained any insight during this video. Please do me a couple of more favors. Be good to yourself out there. You deserve it. And remember, tomorrow is not promised, so go ahead. Make the best of today. God bless you. Sister Cerise here. Be good.